August the 18th, Independent Transportation Surtax Oversight Board meeting. It's just a little after 9:30. So if we could have a roll call, please.
Douglas Coleman,
Here.
Anthea Pennant Wallace,
Here.
Phil Allen,
Here.
Erdal Gomez,
Here.
Ronald Frazier,
Here.
Alan Hooper,
Here.
Debbie Madden. Alejandro Munoz is on Zoom.
I am here.
Thank you. Good morning.
Great, we have everybody on.
And Shay Smith is absent.
I guess we have some action items today. Gretchen, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Because we did not get any follow-up questions from any of the members that require any presentations of additional information, we'll move right in to action on the fiscal year 2024 budget items that you all saw on Wednesday. And I'm going to turn it over to Angela to walk you through the motion statement and the eligibility, actually.
Okay, so the first action item would be for the FY 2024 Proposed County Projects and Expenditures, and for eligibility under 212055 Florida statutes. The proceeds from the surtax shall be applied to projects that are used for the purpose of planning, development, construction, operations, and maintenance of roads and bridges within the county, for the development, expansion, operation, and maintenance of bus and fixed guideway systems, and on-demand transportation. So the first action item includes the projects and the budget amounts for each of the county Public Works Department and the Department of Transportation's budget totals that were presented on Wednesday. And we can take them all together if the board would like, or if you'd like to separate them if there are any questions or discussion. But the first motion would be to approve the statutory eligibility of the proposed projects and expenditures in the categories listed. And if someone would like to raise the motion or make the motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
You're moving approval of all of them?
All of them.
We have a second, please. Do you have any comments? Do we need a roll call vote, or do we need?
I'd like to just.
Pardon?
I'd like to have a little discussion relative to the projects here.
Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Thank you. I just would note that, of course, this board's responsibility extend to the projects that use the surtax. And I notice on the list, and we did have a presentation on it yesterday on the bypass road. That's not listed here because it's funded by the gas tax. Is that correct?
No, the bypass road is listed here, and
It
it's
is? Did
within the very first bullet. So that
Oh.
$92.5 million for Public Works Capital Design and Construction includes $17.5 million for the Port Bypass Road.
17? I thought it was 30 somewhere.
It's 17.5 that's coming from the surtax. It's being leveraged by $30+ million of gas tax
Oh, okay.
and an FDOT grant.
So I would just note then that including that with the intermodal center and the people mover, that those projects represent about $410 million next year. Not to mention that over the 5-year program, it's well over, or it is over $2 billion being invested in the footprint of a couple miles. And we've got so many different departments taking these projects on, and it's not really a role of this committee other than to make a comment, because it doesn't affect the eligibility, et cetera. And they are all within the guidelines of what is in fact eligible projects. But I would like to encourage somebody to develop some kind of a project management tool or function that will take all these different projects. I mean, you've got highway, you've got the airport, you've got the seaport, and since a lot of the investment is at the port, you've also got the port. And those entities have ongoing management responsibilities for running their operations and to also be devoting from like 5 different points of view, this overall project coordination, I am concerned and would recommend somewhere along the line, somebody develop some kind of a tool or some kind of a management responsibility to pull all of these things together. You're gonna have permitting issues, you've got right of way, you've got acquisition, you've got technology support. I mean, these are wonderful projects and things that we have talked about as a community for some of them for 20 years now. And we're now starting to see, we've got a real effort here in devoting real money to these projects. Yeah, my rough calculation was we're spending about, over the 5-year period, we're spending about 15% of what we're going to collect on the surtax over a 30-year period. So, it's not a responsibility of our MAP administration other than to monitor the expenditure stuff. But the management function, I am very concerned with. And you can take that back to the county administrator or to the
I will do
board.
so. I will bring it back to the county administration.
Mr. Allen, maybe I'm naive, but I was assuming that's what MAP was going to do.
No.
I mean, am I wrong?
So we will monitor the finances through a centralized financial system that you all recommended that we develop back in 2019. And we are going to be able to see the leverage that's coming in. We'll know when our various partners within the county are pursuing other funding sources. And they are aware, everyone is on the line, just so that you all are aware. Everyone who has items in the '24 budget that's being considered today is available virtually if there are any questions. And so the various agencies that are taking the lead on these projects that you're referencing understand that they will be coming back in front of the Oversight Board for the future. Once the surtax funds have been given to the agencies that are sponsoring these projects, they're responsible to come back and provide updates and progress reports and status. And we will be reporting on the financial aspects of those projects, whether or not they're on target, whether or not they're on schedule, whether or not they're on budget, whether or not they've been successful in achieving some of the financial assumptions that they presented to you on Wednesday. But with respect to project management, you are correct. The centralized project management of any of these projects that are led by other agencies is not something that MAP administration is responsible for. So I will be having a conversation with county administration about that.
Okay, so Alan,
Again, it goes much beyond the financing and the commitment of the dollars. It goes into things as, well, when are we going to close this road, or what is going to be the impact over here? You've got 3 different cities involved. You've got Dania, you've got Fort Lauderdale, and Hollywood. This is outstanding project concept, but it is, and overall it falls to the county administrator and her management staff to coordinate that. I just would like to see that kind of come together in some kind of a tool that on the peripheral, we can look at what the financing and how that's going, et cetera. But on the accomplishment, the completion of the environmental impact report. I asked a question yesterday about, well, there was a project that was done before, but we weren't able to get no significant impact because we didn't have funding. Now we have funding, so you can go back and brush off that existing environmental. You have a different agency involved, but that's fine. So that's my only comments as it relates, and I just encourage staff to proceed and congratulate them on seeing these things come into vision now from something that was, covered with a lot of fog for a lot of years.
Mr. Hooper?
Yeah, Mr. Allen's right on. It's going to be extremely complicated, but I'm quite sure that on the engineering side, and all the funding sources probably include a great deal of management that's in the budget for those things. But, you know, it would be interesting if we could kind of understand if, just as a practical matter for the public to know through us what's going on, maybe some sort of an org chart or something that shows how the players are going to manage through this. It could be simple or it could be super complicated, but I think we would benefit from understanding how at the higher level it's going to be managed. Certainly when you get to the construction, there's players out there that work around the airport and the port. Some of them probably work at both facilities that understand the permitting and the moving around and how difficult it is to execute. But it would be good to understand how the players are going to interact and how this will be executed from the agency standpoint. But it is going to be very complicated. And I too congratulate all the different players that are going to put this together, because I think that this is going to take our airport and our seaport to that world-class level. And, you know, you talk about what are some of the things that slow your day down, and a lot of people have to travel to do business, and the smoother. I just got back from Miami Airport. They're working on it, but that airport's a mess. And so ours is so nice, and we're making it nicer. So it really sets the tone for our county and our community when we do things like these. So I'm very happy with those projects.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
one quick comment. I'm really glad that you raised that question to Mr. Allen, because I think it is important, not just for these projects, but for all our projects. And we heard a little bit yesterday about the impact of the dollars spent. And I think that needs to be a constant every year, that we're reviewing how the investment from the penny tax is creating the results that we want to see in terms of alleviating congestion, how it's enhancing connectivity, but also how it's creating economic impact, and ideally the propensity for whatever action we're doing to increase the penny tax dollars. It would be good to kind of know whether or not there's some real return on the investment in terms of, for every dollar penny tax invests, over a certain time period, we're seeing an uptick in terms of the increase in penny tax revenue. I would be curious to see that, because, you know, we're making these decisions now, but the truth is these dollars were projected over a 30-year period, and we don't want to spend all of the money now and then have nothing for our children to spend when they're sitting here, right? So I just want us to kind of keep tabs on that throughout the entire period, so we get a sense of where we're going and how frugal we can be. Thanks.
Any other comments?
So,
Mr. Frazier made a motion, and who was second?
I'll second.
And Thea will second it. Any more discussion? Do we need a roll call vote? Do we need a roll call vote, or we can just do it by aye or nays?
Mr. Chairman, just
I'm sorry,
conclude
Phil,
my
go ahead.
comments here. I don't know whether we think it's necessary at this point in time to do any kind of follow-up as it relates to, as part of, as we have in the past, sometimes we have included comments in our transmittal letter for, you know, those types of concerns. I don't know if you want to incorporate something like that into the motion, whoever made the motion.
so if I may, I think what I can provide a summary of what you were asking for. So it's a coordinated project management system that would coordinate. The recommendation would be
System or organization.
an
or something
organization
like that.
structure that coordinates a project management for all of these, the projects that are included in the plan,
Right.
because they're interconnected. The port projects, the rail among the port seaport, and the port bypass road, the airport seaport connector with rail, the people mover at Aviation, and the
And the hotel
intermodal
and the
center.
convention center.
Right. Correct. So the request would be, the recommendation to include with the motion, so it would be a motion to approve the proposed projects and expenditures in the categories listed and presented by the Public Works Department, the Aviation Department, the Transportation Department, and MAP Administration on August 16th, 2024, all right, for their FY 2024 budget. And so it's approving the statutory eligibility of the proposed projects and expenditures and recommending a project management structure that coordinates among the various projects. Does that accurately? Okay.
But also to track the return on investments in terms of all of these projects moving forward. How do we do that? Would that be through that management tool?
Do you want to
No, so
mix
project
apples and
management for
oranges
the
here or
projects is
separate?
coordination of the different activities for the projects themselves, coordinating design, coordinating construction, which would include, traffic management and all of that. So that's one piece. The project management piece is what Mr. Allen is referring to. So tracking the finances is another piece, right? But it's
Correct.
not part of project management. But we do track the leverage, the Surtax funding, the other funding sources, which are tracked as leverage, and the project costs.
But what about the propensity for?
And we can track. We know where sales tax revenues are generated, so we can bring that back to you over time. I mean, everything is, when we're doing these projects, we're looking forward, so we're
Right.
projecting. So we'd project a certain level of increased revenue as a result of improvements, and then we would have to come back. Generally, what we do now, when we bring back the information with respect to our annual audits, we would just have to distill that down to whether or not we were accurate with respect to our projections of increased revenues as a result of investments, which
Yeah,
we
and
can
Thea,
certainly try to
I don't think we
do.
want to mix what you're saying into this motion along with that. I think it'll dilute what Alan's saying, and we're doing a lot of what you're saying anyway, but we'll do it. We can do that under member reports.
Okay, thank you.
We have a
Maybe we
motion.
can handle this by.
Mr. Ertl?
I would
I mean, Ertl?
offer that as an amendment to the original motion then,
Yes.
to incorporate what Angela had said.
Do we have to vote on that first? Do we have to vote on the amendment to the motion?
You need a second to the
So
amendment.
if Mr. Allen made the motion, then I guess Mr. Allen amended. I guess you can, it's a friendly amendment. I don't know who,
I made the original motion. so
Okay.
I accept it.
You made the original motion, and Thea seconded it. You added an amendment.
Yes.
so does Mr. Frazier accepts the friendly amendment, right, to his motion?
And so do I. As a second. I second it, so.
Well, you don't have to second his, he's already accepted it, right?
Right.
Is that right?
Right, so it's
Okay.
the amendment, I mean, it's the original motion, which is the projects as listed and the funding associated with those projects as listed, with a recommendation with regard to coordination and project management. And Mr. Frazier has accepted that.
We'll be
friendly
sending a letter to that effect,
amendment, right,
okay.
and as a recommendation.
Anyone
right.
else? Everyone's got their lights on. Do they want to speak?
Oh,
I just want to make a comment, but it's probably more appropriate, during the discussion after, this particular action, item, regarding our municipal partners and their position and also.
So you don't want to say anything right now?
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion, amended motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes. All right. Ertl, do you want to wait, or do you want to say something now?
I'll wait.
Okay. We are now,
On to the five-year plan, Mr. Chair.
pardon?
We're off to the five-year plan now.
Why a five-year plan? Now, I think we're going to have Tony come up and start talking about this. Is
Sure.
that right?
So we'll invite Mr. Huey up as we go through the various five-year plans that are being proposed.
Now, this is somewhat of a recap of what we did yesterday, correct?
So what you'll notice in the five-year plans is that you'll see the requests from fiscal year 2024 generally highlighted by the agencies. But then what you'll also see is what they are proposing and projecting to do from 25 through 28, the new fifth year of the five-year plan.
Good morning. Mr.
Good
Chair,
morning.
Good morning.
Vice Chair, members of the board. I'm sorry?
Mike's not.
Mike's not on, okay. Let's see.
The good news, Tony, is your name card's there.
How do I do that?
I think they activated it. Tony, try once more.
Is this better? Excellent, thank you. Should I get started? Okay. I'm here to discuss the public works portion of our five-year plan for the Surtax program. In summary, this is the chart similar to the one that we saw yesterday for FY '24. The five-year program, the total amount that we're requesting is $362 million. And what that does is that it is in the same categories as we had discussed in the past. So I'm not going to go through the details of that. And I'm also not going to go through the specificity that we did yesterday. There are a total of 220-plus projects included in this program. About half of it are related to design projects, and then about half of it is related to construction of the projects that are going to come up. Number-wise is about a 50-50 split. In terms of the dollar portion of it, of the $362 million, about 10% of that is related to design projects, and the remaining 90% or so is related to construction. It makes sense in terms of the split that we gear up design with the construction costs coming up. What I'm going to do is that as we go through, oh, by the way, this includes all of the projects we discussed yesterday. And then as we go forth in each year that come up, I will do the similar thing that we have done in the last couple of years, which is go through it with the same degree of detail that you have seen yesterday as we go through on every one of the fiscal years. So this is a quick summary of where we are, where we're headed, and where we want to go. About $362 million in total for the next 5 years. Is there any questions that I can answer for the board?
I don't see any questions, Tony.
Okay, and that's all I have for the board for this morning. Mhm.
Thank you, Tony. And now we'll invite Corey Cuff-Lonergan to come forward and present the Transportation Department's five-year plan.
Good morning, everybody, again.
Good morning.
Good to see you all. Tony, that's all he has to do is talk along these one slide. Just kidding. So a couple small follow-ups from yesterday that I'd like to share with you. First of all, there was a comment made, and good morning, I'm sorry. There was a comment made yesterday about us taking the spots that you saw yesterday for like the Late Shift Connect and some of the other spots that we showed, and have them play at some of the city council commission meetings. And so incidentally, yesterday I was at the Broward County City Managers Association meeting, and I had the opportunity to meet Greg Harrison, who is the chairman of that organization, the president right now. It was hosted at the Junior Achievement Building. I don't know if you've been there yet, but it's very nice, and it's in the lovely city of Coconut Creek. And so I have an action to follow up with him. I didn't do it yesterday. I was a presenter for Primo, but I will follow up with him to see if we can make that happen and push that out to the other cities. The other thing is that I wanted to make you aware, there was a comment about some of the faith-based outreach and continuing to go down that lane. For the Primo plan, we did touch base with about 250 faith-based organizations here in Broward County. We did that through emails and phone calls, with a invitation to come and talk to them about the Primo plan. And so far, we haven't had too many people say yes to that yet, but we're following up on that on the Primo side. And since yesterday, Lynn, who stood up here yesterday with me, has assigned somebody on her team, Lana, to pursue that more aggressively on the operating side as well. So we have that one covered. And then the last one that I want to mention is around the Late Shift Connect, because there was some feedback there that I thought was great. Just so you're aware, there was outreach to the Tourism Coalition, the Hard Rock Group, and others to kind of promote the Late Shift Connect. We've been out on the digital platforms also promoting Late Shift Connect as of late. And we even had some of our commissioners put it in their newsletters to push it out into the public and raise awareness. So we're acknowledging that there's still work to do on that. I've also reached out to my colleagues, Phil Dunlop, who runs our cultural division, and Tara, who runs our health and welfare division, and also Stacy, who does our tourism, to ask them to push it out to their contacts in their respective areas of responsibility. So Tara's already gotten back to me and said she's happy to. So I just wanted you to know that those three are in the works and are being covered. I know there were other suggestions. I am tracking with you, sir, about the program management piece. I understand, I hear you, and I know there's some other comments that were made too. So I just wanted to lead off or start off the conversation with that follow-up for you. Okay, so I'm here to talk about the 5-year plan for us, for the Broward County Transit. And again, the categories are transit way, transit infrastructure, and commuter rail. We talked about them yesterday. At this point, our overall ask for surtax is about $1.1 million. And we also are looking for non-local commitments of about $1.6 million for a grand total of a $2.7 million investment over the next 5 years.
Just to clarify for the record, those are billions, each of those.
I don't know, sorry. Billions, yes. You would have accepted that? I would have been on top of it if we were negotiating. Just kidding. Okay, billions. Thank you, Gretchen, I appreciate that. So for the Primo plan, we have the LRT, the Airport Seaport Convention Center, and we just talked about some of that coordination. And then the LRT downtown Fort Lauderdale, Seaport, and the center, Convention Center, that extension. Bus rapid transit on Oakland Park Boulevard, and the bus rapid transit along US 441 or State Road 7. That will buy about 108 zero emission electric fixed route buses. Also support our electric charging infrastructure and build out 119 new paratransit vehicles, 250 new bus shelters, 2 intermodal transfer centers, and transit development plan, which we're in our 2024, our 2023 transit development plan, and then we'll be up again for renewal in 2027, which is in that 5-year horizon, and then also the comprehensive operational analysis, and that'll be coming up in 2028. Okay, so for our transit and BRT over the 5-year look ahead, we're talking about a total of $684 million this time for our light rail transit and bus rapid transit. And again, we're having that non-local commitment. The idea here is 25% of it, we're anticipating being funded through the surtax, with the remaining 75% through non-local matches. However, for the bus rapid transit, Oakland Park Boulevard, we're looking at that being 100% surtax, so that we can get that up and running as quickly as possible. And there's some advantages to doing that with local funds. So this is the Airport Seaport Connector. I know that we've talked about this before. Just a reminder, we're looking at about 3 miles of elevated light rail transit, and that we will connect Airport, Seaport, and Convention Center. And the annual ridership that we're expecting is about anywhere between 130K to 100,000. And we're wanting that to open in 2028, and the price tag for that is about $1.25 billion. And then,
Lori, can I interrupt a minute?
sure,
You have that opening in 2028?
that's the plan.
Wow.
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. So the schedule's aggressive, and we recognize that. It's definitely aggressive. And it's, the other side of that is, we've been, the surtax has been in existence now for what, 5 years? About 4 years, okay. And so we are trying to catch up, and, it is aggressive, and I recognize that, so. Any other questions about it, sir? Any other questions, sir? Okay, great, thank you. Okay. Okay, so, all right, so this one is again, this is the extension over time. This includes the system planning and design, the construction, project management, and vehicles. We talked a little bit about the PM piece earlier in your overall discussion. That sounds more like program management for all of the coordination for all of these projects in the same vicinity. Just so you know, we are using consultants to support our staff in terms of the PM piece and the design piece for all of our projects. And clearly, we will be using contractors to do the build-out for us. And then this is the downtown portion. This is an additional 3 miles, and we're connecting all these 3 economic engines to downtown Fort Lauderdale. The price tag here is about 417 million. And this one we're hoping to have in place by 2031. And then this is the breakdown of costs and associated areas of expenditure from our PD&E and environmental system planning and design, project management, and construction.
I do have a question on that previous slide.
Sure.
Back to, one more.
One more.
The 417 million is what would be spent between now and 2028, but there's going to be a lot more money spent between 28 and 31, I presume, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You were just today, for point of reference, I'm just talking about these 5 years.
Right.
There's a lot more to go and coming forward here. Okay, so this is, I
Excuse
just
me,
did this
Mr.
one.
Chairman,
Okay.
before we leave this slide,
Mr. Allen.
This one?
where is the transit center in the donut? Where at the airport for the transportation hub,
The intermodal center?
the intermodal center?
Oh, so it's near the highway.
No, I mean, I know where it's
Okay,
in the
sorry.
cloverleaf of the entry ramp, but where is the funding
It's-
for that? I mean,
It's in
who's
the
paying for
aviation
that?
department, department.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what came to you for 2024, when you just approved the fiscal year 2024.
That was
The
included
automated
in
people
there.
mover and the intermodal center, so APM and IMC are both being led by Broward County Aviation at this point.
That was the $2 billion we were talking about yesterday.
Well, it's about 400 million for those 2 projects from the surtax in 2024.
But the overall project was $2,400,000 was coming from Surtax.
So we can go back to that when Ms. Lonergan is finished, if you'd like to look at the.
Okay. Anything else before I go on? All right, this is Oakland Park Boulevard. Just as a reminder, this is 15 miles of the bus rapid transit. We'll connect the Sawgrass Mills Mall area to the Oakland Parks, the city of Oakland Park. We'll have 16 branded stations, and where feasible, we'll have the exclusive bus lanes, and we'll supplement that with local bus route. And the cost here is about, on the higher end, it's 213 million, and the annual ridership is about 3.2 million that we're anticipating, and we're hoping that'll open in 2028. That's our projection. Again, here's the breakdown by category, which is very similar to what you've already seen. Project planning and design, all the way down to vehicle acquisition, and that's about 213 million over the next 5 years. This is the State Route 7 corridor. This is a bus rapid transit corridor complemented with a high-frequency bus service, which is the green to the north. And the overall request here in total is about $216 million, with 54 million coming from Surtax, and the remaining coming from our partners from the state and federal government. And then we have equipment purchases as part of that as well. And then these are our transit category. So over 5 years, this is focusing on our fixed route buses, our high-frequency buses, our paratransit vehicles, and planning studies. So the total expenditure here overall is 181 million, roughly, and the ask of Surtax is the total amount of that request, with no non-local funding requested in this case. So this will prepare us for the purchase of 63 electric buses for our fixed route service at a cost of about 97 million. And then also the purchase of 45 electric buses for a high-frequency bus service at a cost of 60 million, beginning in FY 2024. Those procurements start to take place. From a paratransit perspective, we're looking at purchasing 119 new paratransit vehicles, and at a cost of about $13 million. And then we're going to convert about 104 of our existing vehicles to propane, which is a cleaner fuel source for us, at an expense of about $1.1 million. Then again, we have those planning studies, the transit development plan. In FY 2027, we'll be due to do that, and then in 2028, we'll be due to do another comprehensive operational analysis of our existing system. And at that point, we'll include some of the new stuff. Okay. Now, for transit infrastructure, I'll talk a little bit about what's included in this category in just a second, but just to kind of talk about the financial end of it, we're looking at about $293 million of Surtax funding for it. And it includes our Western Broward Intermodal Center. So this is the terminus point for the convergence of, the light rail, all of our existing fixed route service that serves Sawgrass, whatever's going to be new coming out of the comprehensive analysis, and then also the bus rapid transit for Oakland Park. So we're looking at about $7.4 million for that. And the Hollywood Transit Transfer Center, we did talk about that yesterday. And that is, the intent here is to relieve some of the traffic on Young Circle by relocating the bus layover areas as well as the transfer locations away to a different facility. And that'll be located at Federal Highway and Taylor Street. And then this is also including the electric bus charging infrastructure, bus shelters, and bus stop improvements. And here's a list of all the projects and the dedicated resources and financial resources needed to pursue them over the specific time horizons that are listed in the right-hand side. And then these are our infrastructure, so the other IT, we talked about that yesterday. For transit infrastructure, that does include our IT projects, as well as land acquisition and security enhancements and project management. And so from a technology perspective, we're looking at the continuation of our contactless open payment fare system, intelligent software, asset software, which supports the maintenance of our buses and understanding some of our asset management requirements and running repair responsibilities. Our access point replacements. So this is, kind of small, but it's just for some of our phones for new employees and spare phones. So that's the kind of our comm piece that's folded in there. And then we're looking to use about 2.4 million of it to support our CAD AVL, which is our computer-aided dispatch, to help us do better vehicle locating and also the dispatching of our fleet. And then our land acquisition is at about 51 million. As you know, we've talked about this. We do not have any property yet identified for our light rail facilities, our maintenance facilities. So that's going to be folded into that, as well as, some of the other acquisitions that we might have to make as a result of some of the improvements that we're proposing under Primo.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Mr. Hooper? Mr.
Oh,
Phil Allen,
how do you I'm sorry, the IT security? Do you provide that as an agency, or do you do county security on information technology?
Yeah, no, so we have our own secure IT. So we are part of ETS, which is the overall county umbrella, and so we are under their security protocols, or cybersecurity protocols, but we do have, from our perspective, tools that we use for our operations that are very different from the rest of the county, and so, we have our own specific softwares and technology that we use. As example, our buses have, I believe, 8 cameras on the inside of every bus and 12 cameras on the exterior. And so we capture that data and are able to pull that when we need to.
I was talking more about our data security and network security.
Yeah, that is ETS. And just to be transparent here, we cannot buy anything and put it on our network unless they approve it.
Okay.
So there's a whole process around
And vice versa.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So we don't do that.
Mr. Hooper?
Yeah, so on the land acquisition part of it, I know that 51 million is so that you can pretty much bust a move on a piece of property before you have to come in here and ask us for the money, right? So that makes a lot of sense. I know that there's a lot of properties that the county owns. Are there any out there that they're not using, don't have any use for, where you could maybe dispose and then throw that into the fund, or I don't know. It would be interesting, because I know the city has a lot, the city of Fort Lauderdale has a lot of properties, and they sometimes will dispose the ones that they don't need, or they'll contribute them to the CRA or something like that. So that way, there's, we're not buying something just because it's for sale, and then we find out that we're sitting on something that we bought but didn't really bake it out totally. Or are there pieces that we've done that in the past and that we could now dispose of, and maybe, again, I see properties, I look around all the time, I'm constantly looking at the Broward County tax appraiser's map, looking for real estate. I am not talking about me personally, but you run into a lot of real estate that cities and county owns that are trees, that are Melaleuca trees and stuff. They're just sitting there.
Looks like Angela has an answer.
Okay.
Yes, so all property acquisition is coordinated through the Real Property Division. So Larry Mahoney is the Director of Real Property. He has an inventory of all of the county's property, and any acquisition of additional property is coordinated through Real Property. So there is an inventory. We look at the areas where, there's a need and whether the county owns property in those areas. And all of those factors that you just mentioned are taken into consideration, whether there's actually county-owned property that can be utilized for the needed purpose.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is our commuter rail project. This is the southern portion of it. Again, this is south of the New River, 3 stops at Hollywood, the Fort Lauderdale Airport, and then the 3rd stop before the river, which would be the terminus at this point of the project, and that is at Broward County and Broward Health Facility. And this is 11 miles, and we are connecting with Miami-Dade, and so if, when we have the full complement of all the stations from RN plus Miami, we'll be looking at a annual ridership of about 4.8 million. We're estimating an opening date of 2027, and the total investment here is in the 297 million range. And so there's a portion of this that's already been committed by our commissioners, which I believe you're aware of. We're also looking for a non-local match from the FTA. I did mention yesterday that there's 2 things that are happening that are really great. One is that we're going to be submitting our paperwork in for a rating as a new start. So any project that's under $400 million is eligible to participate in the New Start program. And so there's a sequence of events that have to happen. We don't have to get a rating, but projects that get a rating kind of have a heads up about where they stand potentially against other projects that may be more competitive, or we can figure out where we stand against the competition. And it's also an opportunity for us to tweak things that are concerns for the FTA. And so that's where we are. That's going to be submitted next week, and we're super excited to really hit that milestone. And I actually have a meeting with the Brightline folks next week as well, so things are moving. Okay. So this is the 5-year transit operating expenses. So overall, for the next 5 years, we're looking at spending $781 million roughly, and that's our BCT operating expense. So that's for our buses and general operations. And then the Late Shift Connect is as a steady cost for the next 3 years, and then there will be an anticipation of a drop-off in 2027, 2028, so we'll have to take a second look at that. And then the microtransit program is funded through 2026 with a drop-off in 2027 and 2028. So the total operating ask overall, again, is that $78.9 million. And then this is our overall transit operating landscape. So this is our revenue stream here. So the surtax, as you can see, is on the top line, and that's what you guys are contributing to us. So thank you so much for that. And this is through 2028, and we're looking back in 2020. So it's that 8-year horizon. We also have our fare box revenue, so that's a source of revenue for us, or it contributes to part of our revenue equation. We have our general fund, which is, from our property taxes, that we have a steady stream of dollars that are consistent over the next 5 years from there. We also have the gas tax that's dedicated to transit. Then we have our advertising contract, and then we have our block grants from the FDOT. These grants are used, they're formula grants, and they help with our operating expenses. They're based on ridership and mileage and a bunch of other stuff, but it's a really good resource that we have out there to support us. And then the COVID relief. So We all know that the CARES Act is coming to an end, and we've been fortunate to get the money that we have from the CARES Act, so it's been offsetting some of the expenditures that we've been planning to ask the Surtax to fund. And so we're seeing that drop off in '24 and forward as those funds are no longer available. And so that is our number. So this is what it looks like over the next 8 years.
We both have questions.
Oh, sorry.
Anthea?
Yes, I really love this spreadsheet, and it had me thinking how important it might be for us to have something similar to this on all the projects that we've funded through penny tax dollars, to kind of give us a perspective of how much we're spending, and maybe we already do, but I don't recall seeing it configured this way. I love the fact that you've laid out where the surtax dollars are coming from and any additional resources. I just think that we need to be mindful of how we're spending. When I see all these billions being spent, I worry sometimes that, are we going to get to 5 years from now? Because so many of these budgeted items are multi-year investments. And I worry that, 5 years from now, when we look at other opportunities to invest in other projects, we don't have enough funding. And they're just as important as the ones we're looking at now. So I really like the idea of us looking at those that we've already approved and just kind of looking at it with this eye. And I don't know whether or not that's possible, but.
It is possible, and we do have that in our internal dashboard, and we will be sharing that with you at your retreat on October 20th.
Perfect. Thank
Mr.
you, sir.
Hooper?
I love
Yeah, and
this.
kind of like, this is just after hearing what Anthea said, I'd almost like to see a cash flow projection where you show us the revenue, you show us the project expense, operation, all that, and then we just see how our bottom line looks at the end of every year so that Anthea knows that her children, when they're sitting on this board, will be able to spend some money.
Yes,
Right?
correct.
Okay, and yeah, because that's interesting, and one of my comments was on the revenue side, is there somewhere this week that we have seen the revenue projections, and how much sales tax we bring in on an annual basis and what we brought in that applied to this year or to the, it would be I don't think I've seen that, okay, we brought in this year 100 million in sales tax. That would be interesting.
What I can do is when everybody's completed their presentations, I can pull up the county's budget book that does show all of that
Okay,
information.
that'd be great. And then just a question, it's a hard question. Because in the past, our operations when we were sized pre-surtax, there was probably gas tax, general fund, there was probably some block grants, and it ran the operation, right? I'm wondering, because the general fund transfer, did we take over some of what was before on the operational side? Because it's constant. The general fund is 26.9 every single year, and it doesn't go up with inflation or anything. And so the question is, was that the number that was being spent pre-surtax, and then was it set to stay constant going forward, or did we just pick up 40 million in what was part of the old system? You follow me?
Yes, I do.
I'm
And
just
Tim is
doing
gonna-
this on behalf of the people we
Yeah.
represent.
Tim's gonna come up and help me with this answer.
Right.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tim Garling, Deputy General Manager. Know me right? So good to see everybody this morning. Yeah, so when we put together the 30-year plan, right, one of the principles that we had, what you saw with the general fund transfer, the gas tax, those were the traditional levels of those amounts that we had in the past, right? That's how we were running our system, that along with our fare box and whatever. So as we put the plan together, the idea was to keep that level of effort constant throughout the 30-year program, and then use the surtax to pay for increase of existing services and to fund the new services that we're going to have. So this really is kind of reflecting now, rolling out, is reflecting the plan that we had, and now you're seeing this kind of come to life, and you're seeing as more and more projects get done and we expand our service, you're seeing the surtax take a bigger piece of what's going on in the future. But it was really always anticipated that the level of effort that was originally there was just going to stay at that level, and the surtax was a supplement.
Okay, so it's what it was before, and it's going
Constant.
forward constantly. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you,
Okay,
Tim. I
thank you.
appreciate that.
Just an after comment of that, I would have thought that at least the general fund transfer would go up for inflation, because if not, I mean, we're taking everything more out of surtax. In fact, my
Did you
comment
vote
was.
for the lottery when it was offered?
Pardon?
I said, did you vote for the lottery when it was created to supplement education dollars?
Hey, let's not get into that one, but my comment is, why wouldn't that at least go up? You know, you guys are really good at increasing my taxes at 3% every year, so you ought to be increasing the general fund transfer at 3% a year, or something like that. Anyway, you guys, it's just a comment. Now, but my other comment is, the total 5-year operating is $368 million, and right now the transportation surtax total is a little over $200 million, which is what, 60% or something like that, or even 70%. This is really maybe some help with Gretchen here. Looking at all the other projects where we matching dollars and getting money, it looks like we're putting in about a quarter of the funds. And the big airport thing the other day was $2 billion, and we're putting in 400,000. As a general rule, that's what it looks like. This is obviously slanted because of the operations. And I'm not saying good or bad, I'm just saying that that's why I think Alan was asking about the fixed rate, and I'm asking about why doesn't it grow a little bit? Because that's just an observation. It looks like we're giving a lot more than 25 or 30%. We're not being able to do as much with our surtax dollars in the operating as we are elsewhere, that's all. It's just a comment. I don't know
No.
what we can do anything about it, but,
Right.
Anthea?
No, I agree with your comment. It's as if the penny tax has taken on the lion's share of the responsibility, and the county has just decided that they'll stay status quo and enjoy the benefits, the added benefits of the dollars being generated through the penny tax. So I hear what you're
Well,
saying.
there's also something to be said, if we didn't have the penny tax, we wouldn't be operating anything, which leads to a comment that I was gonna hold for later. But Wednesday, we learned that we're moving 20 million people a year, correct? At the end of this 5-year period, I know all projects aren't gonna be completed. Do you have any idea whether that increase in passenger load is 10%, 20%, 30%? Because I see 4 million here, 5 million here. What? I think that would be a good piece of information to have someday.
Let's calculate that, because I don't have it off the top of my head, and I want to
Sorry.
mislead you today. So and we can get it back to Gretchen and get you a number for that, please.
And I realize even because some of these projects go out 10 years, and we're
Yeah.
spending, we're gonna be spending the money. But I'd like to know how our passenger load is going up.
Yes, sir, understood.
Chairman? Yes.
Mr. Hooper?
Just to answer, I think I'm gonna try to answer the question you'd probably try to answer, but when you have a dedicated source of funding for operations, which is one of the things that the surtax was intended to do, it allows us to go after FTA money and other things, because they look at that and grade you based on your ability to pay for the operation. So the operation, I think it's fair to say that the operation was gonna grow, and that we were gonna spend surtax money for an increase in operation. So I think I probably hit that on the head, right?
Yep.
Yes, you did.
In fact, in some instances, the FTA requires you to have 6 months of operating funds in escrow at the time that the grant is issued. So they're very serious about making sure that that capital investment is appropriately funded on the back end when it goes into service.
Question whether or not your operating funds would be going up, just like everything else?
Yeah, I mean, the operating funds are likely to go up year over year. I mean, there's inflation and there's other
Right.
costs associated with
But
that.
it's the same.
What's flat, I think, that we.
Is a general
Is the
fund.
general fund and the gas tax.
Okay, I see it. I
That's
got it,
okay.
got it.
Okay, Corey, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, this is the 5-year look-ahead for the community shuttle from an operating perspective. So this sums all of it. We're looking at 60 million for the community shuttle, an additional 8 million for our shuttle capital. Sorry, the first one is operating only. The next one is the capital investment. That's for new buses and the transfer of equipment from diesel to propane. And then we need to make certain improvements to bus stops for the community shuttle program in response to the American with Disability Act and the accessibility requirements that we have to honor. And there's also an opportunity to expand the community shuttle service, which has been included in here at about 19.7 million.
Just a question on so this goes to the cities and it comes out off the MAG, is that correct? That's what that says?
Yes,
Okay, thank
that's
you.
what the notation indicates.
What's the MAG? I'm sorry.
So on your previous slide, if you read the notation
Oh, the
at the
I'm sorry.
top,
Okay,
yeah, the
no.
minimum annual guarantee.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman? The new buses, the expansion or the purchase of new buses, are those being purchased for propane, or there's
So
also a
we-
conversion program
It's a
for
conversion.
propane?
So we buy them and then we convert them.
So you can't buy them as propane, or you have to do the conversion yourself?
So I'm gonna have Paul come up because he's the expert on our propane program. He can tell you.
Good morning, Paul Strobus, I'm the paratransit director for BCT. The vehicles that we utilize in the service come as gasoline from the manufacturer. We use Ford and Chevy chassis for these types of vehicles. You can have the manufacturer that puts the body on the back of the chassis include the propane system during the manufacturing process. Tends to be a little more pricey. We have a contract to do the conversion after the fact to save
Okay.
us some money. Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, and this is the 5-year plan for the community bus shuttle program. So these are the 1,000 bus stops over the 5-year horizon at 23 million, and then the purchase of 46 vehicles for $8 million over the 5-year horizon. And then the expansion of the community shuttle program, and that shows you the expenditures over the 5-year period. And let's take a break, but it's not my call. But I will say this, I just want to make a comment about the community shuttle program. So, you know, we have been approached by many of the cities to take a look at that program and see what we can do in terms of microtransit. And so we are trying to figure out what the right mix is there, and we're looking into it. So we want to answer the mail there and try to be as responsive as possible to the cities. They have some microtransit programs that are very, very successful. We have community shuttle routes that are very successful too. So we're just trying to balance that.
Are these community shuttles only used within the boundaries of that city?
Yes, yeah, right.
Some of the
there- is
routes
there one?
overlap. No, some of the routes overlap. So
They-
there are set routes and some cross municipal boundaries depending on, because there's, they're like close.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Sometimes it makes sense to connect to certain places like.
Right, well, where I was going with this is, why does this come out of the MAG that this, it's the city's portion, when this is a transportation system countywide and in some cases crossing? I'm just asking that question.
The Second Amendment.
Pardon?
The Second Amendment to the interlocal agreement among the county, the municipalities, and the MPO provides that the community shuttle costs come out of the MAG.
Well, who proposed that? The county or the city?
All of the parties agreed to it. So the cities have
wait,
existing community, wait a minute.
Wait, we
All-
can't
The
go
cities
back and
have.
start talking
right.
about, yeah,
No.
come on.
The cities had existing service
just asked
that
a
was
question.
funded, by the county. The county has provided the capital, the county has always provided the vehicles. The county provided a portion of the funding before the surtax passed. The county decided to fund all of it, so the county absorbed what the municipalities used to pay. It's a voluntary program, so the cities that asked to participate in it were brought in and participate in it, and they operate the service, and the county took over what the portion of the funding for the operations that the cities used to fund, and through the surtax, we took out, and so that is all included in the minimum annual guarantee that the county has committed to municipalities through the existing interlocal agreement.
All right, as long as we're not impacting the function and use of these transportation systems, then it's probably okay. But it's a big system, and it just looks like, I don't want a bunch of little parts running around that aren't connected to the whole, okay?
So,
Mr. Chairman? Mr.
We
Chairman?
can't be sitting up here arguing over a deal that was cut. I mean, it's already cut. I know you don't like it, but it's.
I am trying to make sure we are being as efficient as we can. That's what I'm raising the issue. I don't care how it got there, I just want to know, are we being as efficient as we can with those tax dollars moving people in and amongst other cities?
Okay, so when I was chair of the TMA in Fort Lauderdale, Community Shuttle, we were dying for money, okay? And we were constantly, the county threw in some money, the city threw in some money. It was difficult at best to even operate. And so I can assure you that this Community Shuttle program, the way they've set it up, is a hell of a lot more efficient than it was when they were doing them all on their own, with the county coming over and saving the day whenever they needed an extra $500,000 or $1 million. It's a good
Essentially,
plan.
there are some efficiencies that are built in by this partnership, so, and probably why everybody agreed to it. But you have the right to question things if you want. You're the chair.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Allen?
The bus shelters, do they all have the next bus technology?
not yet.
Is it planned?
Yeah, so Aretha is looking into that, and we're trying to figure out how to implement something like that, but we don't have that in service yet.
Is there any difference between the spec for a community shuttle stop and a county stop?
Yes, there is, and I'll have Aretha explain that to you.
Aretha Douglas, Assistant General Manager of our capital programs, and the bus stop program.
Can you
and the
use the
improvement
microphone?
program does fall under my preview. And we do work with our community bus partners that, of course, is in our department. The difference is, there's not much difference. Some fixed route stops are shared with community bus stops. We are mandated by the federal government to make these stops ADA compliant. So what you see up there is, and then the 5-year plan for community bus is funding to make community bus stops ADA compliant. So the requirements at a fixed route bus stop will be duplicated at what we now will have as dedicated community bus stops. So if we need a landing area, for instance, it needs to be 5 by 8, we'll do the same at the community bus stops, if they're not a shared stop with our fixed route stops.
But the services are somewhat interconnected, right? I mean, does the rider have to be knowledgeable in, I get on a community service bus and then I go to the nearest county stop and get a countywide bus?
Well, at the bus stops, we do have signage that identifies the service and the routes, both for fixed route and community bus. So if it's a shared stop, you'll have signage that says, for instance, Route 18, and then you'll have one for the community bus service too at the same stop. So we do sign, so our passengers are aware of what routes are at those locations, especially the ones that are shared. And then for the ones that are not shared, we do work with the cities to also sign those stops where the cities wanted to have signed bus stops.
Okay. Next question, I don't know if you can answer this. Is the pay equity issue going on, still going on?
I'm sorry, sir.
The pay equity issue between the shuttle drivers and the countywide buses? Is that
So,
in
yes,
negotiation?
there is a disparity there. The contracts that were negotiated, not by the county, but by the individual cities, had set rates that, I believe some of them are at least a livable wage. I'm not sure about the details. Angela can probably get into that. But those contracts were negotiated. And then we obviously have a labor union, and we have our own contract negotiations that we've, in fact, I mentioned yesterday, we've actually finalized those negotiations, and hopefully the commission is satisfied with the outcome, and we will have a new contract in place. That will be, and it will be even more disparate at that point.
And that then will become an issue for the cities, then they're going to have to deal with that, with the community shuttles.
One of the things that we're trying to do to levelize this is to have a consortium, kind of like my team is working on a marketplace contract where we will negotiate the rates for everybody, and then we won't have the cities won't have the burden of having different rates and different circumstances. So we are working on that. Paul actually has taken that on, and we should be going out with an RFP probably in the next, I'm going to say, 5 months or so to do just that.
How do the wages compare between the school board and the
That
county?
I do not know, sir.
You don't know. Okay.
I'm sorry.
If
I do
may.
know that, I can tell you this anecdotally, I was at the Florida Public Transportation Association meeting. It's a strategic meeting of all of the heads of Florida agencies, transit agencies, and they just really wanted me, particularly the one to the north, to tell them what our pay was going to be as a result of this contract negotiation. And I would not share with him. But we have a friendly competition going, seriously, because we're just all suffering from not having enough drivers. And we, unfortunately, our rates were lower than both counties adjacent to us before this contract.
Okay.
This thing is going all by itself. Are you doing it? You're doing, okay. All right. Well, thank you. It's good to see you all again. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Gretchen, do we need to vote on anything else today? We do. Okay, because I have to leave. Okay.
We'll get through this quickly. Hopefully, we'll get to the vote by 11, if that works for you. Okay? Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
That's why we're not taking a break.
We're on target. That was our break. Break taken. I just wanted to acknowledge,
I don't know, can we take a 5-minute, if someone needs a 5-minute break, I guess we have to take a 5-minute break. But make sure it's only 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to move into the municipal project five-year plan overview. And before I do that, I do want to acknowledge that there are a number of municipal representatives in the audience and even more that are participating virtually at our request. So for those of you that are in the audience, if you'd just like to stand so that the Oversight Board has an idea of how many of you, thank you. So what I did, thank you so much.
Wow, 1, 2, 3, we have 6 or 7, right?
Yeah, and then we have many, many more that are on the line.
Well, could we at least hear what city they're from?
Sure. We have City of Fort Lauderdale, and we have the City of Coconut Creek, and we have the City of Miramar, and I'm sorry, but remind me, Davie, Town of Davie.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
So we'll get into, you all have, for those of you that have been on the Oversight Board for a while, you've seen these five-year plans. The way that we structure them is we try to visually depict any type of movement from the previous five-year plan. And so the first thing I'll point out to you is that that gold color cell indicates that a project moved out. It moved forward from its previously programmed year. These are due to a number of factors. These moves are permitted under the Second Amendment, and we work closely with the municipalities that are affected, get assent from the municipalities in writing. Frequently, cities will ask us to move their projects, reschedule their projects for a variety of different reasons. So these are moving out due to readiness. We also have projects that move up. So they were programmed in a later year of the five-year plan, the previous five-year plan. The project's design is either complete or about to be complete. The cities formally request that their projects receive construction funding earlier. Generally, it's in the next fiscal year. So what you see here are 3 projects that requested their construction funding move into fiscal year 2024, which begins on October 1st. And the MPO, under the Surtax Services Agreement, does an evaluation of the city's requests, looks through their design plans, and recommends to us whether or not a project should be moved up. That's considered a readiness review. So you'll see there that they are programmed in an earlier year due to their construction readiness. Then you'll see one last project that is moved into 2025 at the request of the municipality. That is actually a rehabilitation and maintenance project that was recommended in fiscal year 2027 as part of the previous cycle, cycle 3. You'll also see some, on this slide, you'll see some projects that are highlighted in yellow. What that indicates to you is that those projects were recommended as part of cycle 4. So that's this year's MPO process, where cycle 4 programs projects into the new 5th year, which is 2028. You'll notice that there are 3 projects that were recommended on this slide for construction funding in 2028. Those are continuations of projects that were recommended in cycle 3 for design, and those projects belong to the town of Davie. Then you'll see a project highlighted in green. That is a project that was recommended for design funding in cycle 3, 2027 programmed, design funding for the city of Lauderhill. The city of Lauderhill requested funding for their construction phase. By the MPO, through the MPO's process, the project did not rank high enough to be recommended for funding through the normal course of the cycle 4 recommendation process within the minimum annual guarantee projected. The county did consider the request, and the county administrator agreed to program the project's construction funding into 2028. It was reviewed for eligibility by the county attorney, our Surtax legal counsel, and I'm just going to turn it over to Angela very briefly to put on the record her determination on that project.
Well, the project is currently in, I guess, in design. There are 3 different phases that are proposed for that project, and they extend a road, an existing road. Phase 1 is widening and improvements for, I think it's 39th, the street in Lauderhill, and proposes improvements. Phases 2 and 3 extend that existing road into other areas. One right now, for Phase 2, it's a proposed private development, and it is anticipated that the developer will dedicate right-of-way, so that has to occur in order to use surtax funding for the roads within that area of the project. So it's contingent upon dedication of right-of-way for those roads and to extend the roadway into that area. And the 3rd phase proposes extending the road onto county property, which will require county approval. So, as the design progresses and advances, we'll see, how it's further developed. But the project in general, since it is extension of a road, is eligible, and we'll review the other components as the design progresses.
Can I ask a question? Can I assume that this is something that the cities indirectly have asked for, correct?
Directly.
The cities directly applied for surtax funding through the MPO, the application process with the MPO.
And but there are also these changes, if you want to call them that.
So the project is being designed, so the design will flesh out what's
Okay.
proposed to be constructed.
Chairman?
Mr. Hooper?
So all of these changes on these particular projects have been vetted through the MPO and have approved these changes.
Right, so I guess it's
No,
not.
I'm not talking
you mean
about the
shifting.
Lauderhill, all of them, all the shifts were
The
done
shifts.
for a reason, and the MPO is part of the decision-making.
Right, so the Second Amendment requires these, because those are all Cycle 1 projects, and Cycle 1 projects are required to be funded through all the phases as originally ranked and recommended by the MPO. So we maintain those rankings, and there's an evaluation with regard to funding. The Second Amendment allows the county to evaluate the construction readiness, and there's a section of the Second Amendment that says that for construction phase projects, the county can adjust the 5-year plan to accommodate the construction, to move it out if the project is not ready for construction, or move in a project that is ready for construction. If there are phase projects that are currently in design and the municipality documents that the design will not be ready, if for City X, was scheduled to have construction funding in FY24 and the design is not complete and the project is not going to be ready for construction, we get documentation of that from the municipality, and another project that's actually ready for construction gets moved in, and the MPO administers that process.
And has this been through that process?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve it, to approve the projects, and then we can talk about it.
Do we need a second?
A second, but discussion.
Mr. Fraser was the first second.
Excuse me, I think we're doing the 5-year plan, we're doing all of it together. I think this is just a presentation regarding the municipal projects.
Oh,
There's
I thought
another
I
presentation.
thought this is what we were voting on.
No, so we're voting on all, so the 5-year plan is the funding recommendations going
I'm
forward.
sorry.
And
I
they'll be
rescind
taken
my-
up, the way we did the FY20 for Public Works and the Transportation Department. The first motion that we took, first action, was for the FY 2024 budget. The next motion will take all of the projects into consideration for the remaining 4 years of the 5-year plan, right? There'll be one motion that takes all of these in.
Erdl?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, I'm relatively new on this board and learning about the process, including the workshop, the budget, and also looking forward to completing the first cycle. And I want to thank staff for putting together impressive presentations about accomplishments last year from the inception to date, and also the projects for the next year and the 5-year, the term. And these are incredible projects, effort, vision, this board and also this Broward County, the citizens looking forward to make these, happen, come true, and demonstrate, the quality of life improvements, for everybody. I am curious how we could include the voices of the municipalities. I'm so glad we have presence of members of municipalities in the audience. And I heard also there are a number of them on the telephone, and which is really great. And there's always process and opportunities for improvements. And I'm not trying to change the process, but we have heard from various officials, from the county staff, from transportation, transit, and airport, but haven't really anybody kind of stepped up from the municipalities or anybody representing the municipalities like Broward League of Cities. I know these are all public meetings, anybody can come in and speak up, but is that something we could do at some point, maybe at a retreat in the future, or maybe time to time invite them to come in, and if there are any, the opportunities to improve communications?
Gretchen may have a comment on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Donmez. We are in the process of we are waiting for some terms to come from our municipal partners with respect to our current agreement that Angela was referencing earlier, the Second Amendment. And yes, I do invite the municipalities to participate in these meetings. They generally participate virtually. We have a lot of people who are in attendance for these meetings, especially the budget workshops. We invite the cities, especially those that have any projects in the 5-year plan or any projects that are impacted or affected by moves, to come. But I agree that, we've talked about this in the past, actually, prior to you joining the Oversight Board. There was discussion by the board members of inviting cities to come and participate more and provide feedback on opportunities to improve processes. Certainly what I will do, if it is the will of the board, and I receive direction, I will invite them to our retreat on October 20th. And perhaps at that point, we'll have more information about the requests that are being presented by the municipalities with respect to our our governing legal agreement. And I can work with representatives from the BCCMA, from the Surtax subcommittee, perhaps. I know you said the League of Cities, but we generally don't bring elected officials to the meetings, but perhaps I can reach out and see what is most appropriate. Sorry.
I meant to say BCCMA, yeah.
Mr. Allen?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I've harped on this in the past, and the concern that I have. On the first chart that you showed after the introduction, there, the golden, whatever that top color there is, a lot of these projects, we see they're being highlighted or programmed in a later year, continue to slip year after year. They are programmed and ready to go, but then the city or somebody decides we're not ready for that project yet, we're still developing the specs, et cetera, so we slip it. And that continues to happen with a number of these projects. And the concern that I have is, to the extent that those projects still are in a state of flux, or either in design, or they're just not sure when we're going to get around to doing that project, is their presence because of the cap that is placed on how much is available for municipal projects in a year? Are certain cities being impacted by having projects ready to go, but aren't able, because those dollars are already allocated to projects that continue to slip year after year?
May I?
And in fact, you said that the county administrator had approved an additional $10 million on another project for Lauderhill. Are there other projects like that that are not able to make the list because those monies are already spoken for and on projects that aren't necessarily proceeding?
Gretchen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Allen, the fact is that we are governed by a legal agreement that requires us to maintain funding for projects that were recommended in cycle one. If they were recommended in a planning phase, we are holding all of the funding associated with the planning, design, and construction of those projects. That is what the legal agreement requires us to do. The only projects, as I mentioned in our briefing, the only projects that are even up for consideration for being infeasible and thus potentially canceled by the county would be projects that were recommended in a construction phase and that were also capital projects, not rehabilitation and maintenance projects. That is what the legal agreement is requiring us to do at this point.
But you said that you're in the process of renegotiating that agreement, is that correct?
We have been asked whether the county would be open to renegotiating the agreement, and we are awaiting the terms from the municipalities, yes. So we're not in active negotiation at this time.
Gretchen, would it be a fair statement that the cycle one projects, there's enough money currently in the program that if another project comes along, it's not going to be hampered by this money that's set aside, or is that not? Which way is it?
It's up to the county. So the county administrator, every year, we go through the process of looking at all of the recommendations in the new fifth year, all of the reality of the projects in the previous years, whether or not they're ready. We work with the cities, we work through the MPO, and we work with legal. And we try to determine what's the best path forward? What is the most efficient use of resources? And we come up with various scenarios. Transportation planners work through a variety of different scenarios, and we go in front of the county administrator and our Office of Management and Budget and present those scenarios. It is really the decision of the county administrator whether or not she wants to fund above the MAG to try to bring projects forward. And we have to look at the amount of cost savings that we have, real cost savings from construction phase projects that are completed, from perhaps the community shuttle program. What did we assume that we were going to expend, and then what did we actually expend? And can we roll some of that funding forward to be able to accommodate a project, a good project that's ready for construction? But in the end, that is a determination of the county administrator whether or not she wants to fund above the MAG to move these projects forward.
Were there any projects that were submitted that did not meet that criteria?
Well, of course. So there were, many projects that were submitted to the MPO through cycle 4.
So if in fact you move money, if these projects that are being delayed repeatedly were terminated, that money would be available to be reprogrammed to another city application. So the city is being harmed because they can't get on the list because those monies are already committed to projects that are continuing to be delayed.
That is correct.
Okay. That's something that
We've talked about for about 3 years.
something that we continue to talk about year after year relative to, is it time to renegotiate that agreement? And should those cities that are being harmed by other cities sitting on the money, and they have a voice in this?
It looks like you have inspired a city to come forward and speak to this issue.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Sheila Rose with the City of Coconut Creek. I'm also the co-chair of the BCCMA subcommittee related to the surtax. And although it has been a long slug, at our last BCCMA meeting, and then again yesterday at lunchtime, we reviewed the proposed terms from the subcommittee with the group, and they will be transmitted to the county administrator on Monday. or this afternoon. There were some final typos, so it is just a term sheet of what our ask is. It's the beginning of a negotiation, and we look forward to working through those issues. Thank you.
But that topic that I just had a discussion of is part of that package.
Part of that package, but I will say, we all struggled with some of the Cycle 1 projects with the eligibility determinations.
Right.
And the county attorney's office has made great strides in bringing those projects from that sort of gray area to finally getting them done. So hopefully we're clearing that list out. We're hoping, that's everyone's goal, is to clear all those Cycle 1 projects out and get them done and built.
That's Mr.
Gretchen,
Sidewalk.
what is the count on those Cycle 1 projects? There was 117 or 19, and I know 60 or 70 or...
We've got 69 active, and I think I presented that to you on Wednesday. That also includes a variety of projects that were with bundles. So there might have been 4 projects that were presented by a city, and they were rolled into one. So at this point, as I mentioned on Wednesday, 72% of Cycle 1 projects are under agreement or completed. There are still some projects, obviously, and I think that's what Mr. Allen is referencing, that are not under agreement, aren't really necessarily close to being under agreement, and may not be feasible, but are also not eligible under the terms of our current legal agreement to be canceled. So those are things that we need to work through, obviously.
Thank you.
Just as an example, the city of Coconut Creek had 2 projects. One of them actually will be on our city commission agenda next Thursday for approval for the design services, and we would hope to roll into construction shortly thereafter. One of the projects was for ADA compliant community shelters, bus shelters, and we have deemed that project to be unfeasible because of the changing nature of the community shuttle. So we have actually withdrawn that project. Thank you.
And we greatly appreciate those of you that formally withdraw your projects so that we can redistribute those funds to other municipalities that have feasible projects. Mr. Chair, may I continue with the presentation?
Please.
Okay. So I just wanted to finish up here with the final list of projects being recommended for the new 5th year. Again, these are recommendations that come through the MPO Surtax Services Agreement process. These, you can see there are a series of new projects. These are not continuations of previous years. So I just wanted, because we had a little bit of an interruption between these two, I'd just like to make it clear that the first 3 bright yellows are continuations of previous years' recommendations from design to their construction phase. And then when you get to this list, these are all new projects in various phases. We have 2 planning projects, we have a series of design projects, and 1 construction project. What that means when you're looking at planning and design projects is that we have unfunded liabilities into the future for those projects. In addition, there are still projects from fiscal year 2027 anticipated, right? Because we wouldn't necessarily fund a design project if we didn't have intention to fund the construction projects.
But each year they will be evaluated.
Correct.
And so the projects beginning in cycle 3, which involved new municipal projects, do not hold their ranking for future phases.
No.
That only affected cycle 1. So now, prospectively, beginning with cycle 3, municipal projects that are submitted are evaluated for that planned fiscal year, and they have to come back and be reevaluated for readiness before and other criteria before funding is recommended for the next phase.
Right.
Right,
Thank you.
so it's not holding money for subsequent cycles. It has to go back through the evaluation process for the subsequent cycles.
Thank you, Angela. And I sorry.
No, I don't know if Mr. Hooper had something.
I think he still has his mic on from earlier. I think that's exactly what I was trying to point out for the Oversight Board, perhaps inartfully so, is that we still have projects that were recommended for design phases from 2027 that have not yet been recommended for construction. Because the cities are required to submit an application for every phase, they don't hold their rank, right? So what happens is we still have projects that were recommended for design that don't have construction money, and now we have a series of new design projects as well as some planning phase projects from 2028. So what I'm just reminding all of you is that as this process moves forward, there are new projects that are coming forward, but there are still phases of previously recommended projects that are not coming forward. And these are also things that I know the municipalities are interested in trying to address in a potential third amendment. And with that, I'm going to close out on the Municipal Projects 5-year plan. If there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain those. All right, I'm going to quickly go through MAP administration. MAP administration is the agency that supports the Oversight Board, your roles and responsibilities, coordination meetings, as well as supports the appointing authority. We also coordinate with all of the agencies internal to the county that receive surtax funds, as well as our municipal partners. And as you can see, we have 14 positions, 3 of which are in the Office of Economic and Small Business Development. I see Mr. McDonald in the back, as well as 11 positions that are in MAP administration directly. 2 of those positions are currently vacant. When I do my report later, Mr. Chair, I would like to point out some of our new members of our team that are here to support you and your efforts. And with that, I will close.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question on
Mr. Fraser?
administration. Could you put the chart back on? I noticed that you don't have any money allocated to construction as far as administration, but you had it in previous years. Is there a reason why not?
Yes, thank you for asking that question, Mr. Fraser. So as you all know, those of you that have been on the board from the very beginning, we have been trying to create a space that's kind of a public engagement and activation area, as well as a place where the Oversight Board, Appointing Authority, and other community groups can meet. And that construction renovation is complete. Actually, they're doing the punch list right now. I've been getting texts as we've been having the meeting. So when we have our retreat on October 20th, it will be in the new space at GC West at 1 North University Drive in Plantation. That is why you don't see any additional construction funding, because the construction for that space is complete. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I turn it back over to you for the eligibility review and the approval of the 5-year plans. Actually, I'll turn it over to Angela.
Okay, so the 5-year plan is, especially for capital projects, is something that's statutorily required, and it's the process is outlined in the Transportation Surtax Ordinance, which is found at 31.5-75 of the Broward County Code of Ordinances. So what's been happening, I guess, Wednesday and again today is outlined in the ordinance. It's that staff compiles the projects, proposed projects, and their proposed expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year, as well as over a 5-year horizon, and presents them to the Oversight Board for review and approval as to statutory eligibility of both the project and the proposed expenditure. And once the Oversight Board takes action with regard to the statutory eligibility of the projects, those projects are submitted to the county administrator, who includes them in the county's annual budget process. And the county will approve, the county commission will allocate funding for the upcoming fiscal year, which will be FY 2024, and approve the 5-year planned projects over that 5-year horizon between FY 2024 and 2028. And so the proceeds from the surtax, the eligibility is outlined in section 212.0551D of the Florida statutes, and the statute authorizes the proceeds to be used for planning, development, construction, operation, and maintenance, and supportive services for roads, bridges, and transit, basically. And so the 5-year plan outlines the proposed expenditures over the proposed projects and planning them over that 5-year period. And the motion would be to approve as to statutory eligibility, the proposed projects and expenditures for the 5-year plan, 2024 to 2028, consistent with Section 31.5 dash 75H3 of the Broward County Code of Ordinances for the Public Works Department, the Transportation Department, the Municipal Projects, and the MAP Administration, consistent with what's been presented to the board today for the 5-year plan.
Mr. Hooper, are you ready?
I make a motion to approve as eloquently said by Angela.
Mr. Erdl?
Seconded.
Oh, any other comments? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Talk about, no, I'm sorry. Talk about the process now. This,
Motion carries.
our recommendations will be presented to the board at their budget hearing, or at their budget workshop.
What I will do is consistent with what we do each time, a transmittal letter will be presented to the county administrator after this meeting, and whether or not those recommendations are shared with the county commission at their workshop will be determined by the county administrator.
Is that budget workshop subject to other workshops on the same budget, or is this standalone for transportation projects?
No, there are other agencies that will be presented on August 29th besides the Surtax Capital Fund.
Okay, who presents the, I'm just questioning whether the chair should be present for the workshop.
That's certainly something that you all can decide. That has not been the case previously. The Office of Management and Budget and the county administrator present the budget. I'm always there if there are questions.
Okay,
And
so-
certainly, you know, if it is the will of the board to have somebody from
So I think the board
oversight
would be comfortable with our administrator representing the.
I
this
think they
board.
have in the past, but if you want me to sit there and
No, I don't,
just sit there.
I don't want to make you do that. I'm suggesting maybe that we just show our sense of support for the administrator to present our
I wouldn't want that
position.
meeting to go any longer, so maybe I just will.
What's that?
I won't show up.
Any of you or all of you are welcome. It's on August 29th, and I'll send some more information out after this meeting about that, okay?
Is that video?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in room
Live?
430.
Live cast?
It's live, just like all budget workshops for the county commission, yes.
And when are our next meetings?
We have only one meeting left, and it is on October 20th. It is scheduled right now as a regular meeting and a retreat. It will be in our new space in Governmental Center West at 1 North University Drive, Plantation. It will start at 9:30. And we'll be working on the materials based on some of the direction and discussion that's occurred on Wednesday and today with the members. And then it's at that meeting that the Oversight Board will set its calendar for 2024 calendar year. So we'll select our dates, and don't forget to bring your calendars to that meeting, because we'll select our dates and our backup dates for the entire calendar year 2024.
Mr. Chair,
Anthea?
will this event on, our meeting on October 20th be almost like a launch or an opening of, no?
Not
No
necessarily.
celebration?
Not necessarily. I'm not sure if we're going to be in a position to do a full, like, we talked about inviting all of the agencies and our administration and our commissioners, but I'm going to have to wait and see where we are with the space. But eventually, yes, that is the plan. The plan is to do groundbreaking and invite all of our stakeholders and have them present and able to come down and do a walkthrough.
Absolutely.
We ready for reports? I do have a small report today. If I might read this, please. As we continue to refine our effectiveness for the voters of Broward County as part of the Transportation Surtax Oversight Board, I would encourage the board members to pay special attention and review again pages 89 through 117 of the 196-page verbatim minutes from our last meeting in April. Let me repeat that. I think you have an electronic copy on your computer, pages 89 through 117. I believe this is one of the legacies of our past and first chair, Mr. Alan Hooper, and it is good food for thought as we move forward. Thank you. I put that in the record so that you wouldn't have to write it all.
Could you, Mr. Chair, just kind of say essentially what the essence of those pages? What are
The
they
essence of
stipulating?
those pages are that this board is not a rubber stamp. And I think that was the essence of that. I think it was sage advice, and as we move forward, I think there's always room for improvement. So I think it kind of hit the nail on the head of something that Alan has brought his share, and I think it needs to continue, and I would encourage you to take a close look at it.
Got it.
Thank you.
Noted.
Any member comments? Mr. Allen, your button's on. Surtax General Counsel,
I have nothing further.
Board Coordinator.
Yes, I would like very much if I could have a moment of personal privilege to introduce to you some of your talented, dedicated staff that help make these meetings possible. And I'm very, I'd like to ask Margaret Daly-Johns to come up and introduce a new member of our team. This individual comes to us with extensive experience. They are working with the municipal contracts, the grants that we provide to our municipalities, and they're looking at the finances of all of those grants. So Margaret, with that, I'm going to let you introduce Nick.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Oversight Board. It's my pleasure to introduce our newest team member, Mr. Nicola, or Nick DiGiornardo. I'm sorry, Nick, I'm trying. He is our new contract grant administrator, and he will be working a lot with me with the financials and also with the municipal grants. And Nick, welcome. Would you like to say a few words?
Hello, my name is Nick. I come from Barry University. That was my last position. I worked with contracts, grants for the sites throughout the state of Florida. I was the director of operations, and that's where I come from.
Well, welcome, and you've got a lot of work to do. We love these grants.
Yeah, so do I.
In fact, we are tracking these grants.
Yeah,
so.
that's what we do.
Awesome. Welcome.
And Thea?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, I'd just like to make a very exciting announcement that Ms. Tashana Wilson came to us as a public information specialist. She has recently been promoted to the marketing manager. And that means that she's coordinating with all of our internal agencies, their marketing departments, as well as all of the 29 participating municipalities, getting the word out, doing the big splashes, and working to activate our new public Surtax Plaza. And so congratulations, Deshauna. Why don't you say a few words? Oh, I wanted to also mention she's going to be giving you a very robust presentation about the vision for the next 5 years as far as doing public outreach, engagement, and marketing for the program.
You said that just for me, Gretchen, so happy to be reintroduced to the board as your new marketing manager, and I look forward to our presentation at the retreat. Thank you.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Gretchen, I guess there's nothing else unless anyone has heartburn, and Thea might.
Well, I just want to say a big thank you to all the presenters over the last 2 days. I know there's been a lot of work that went into that production. At Broward College, we prepare at the foundation for our board members, and I just know how much work can get into preparing for these board presentations. So I just wanted to acknowledge your efforts and to thank you, Gretchen, and Miss Wallace, my sister over there, for everything that you do to support us over the past year. It's been great for us to have your support. And that's
Thank you.
it.
And I want to thank the cities that showed up and the cities that are on the phone. We'd like to do more for you if we can. In some cases, we just need more information.
And one more thing, I'm sorry. I'd just like to thank the Office of Management and Budget, particularly Sunjan Zanker, as well as Kevin Kelleher for all of their support in getting these materials together as well. Thank you so much.
If nobody has anything else, we stand adjourned at 11:34. Thank you.